Hey Sugar Snaps, welcome to the Textile Indie YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Brittany. Here on YouTube, I share tutorials and inspiration in fiber and textile crafts. If you're an old friend, welcome in, glad to have you. Curl up with your favorite hot beverage, or if you're in a warm climate, grab something chilly like this limoncello LaCroix that I just pulled out of the fridge. Oh yeah. Today I am sharing my collection of WIPs, or works in progress. This is a term, if you're not familiar with it, that crafters use to describe all of the projects they have that are in progress, that they have intentions of coming back to, but that are sitting around their home or workspace incomplete. Depending on whether you're someone that is comfortable with a lot of projects going on at once, this may or may not be a stressful video for you. My apologies if it is. I am someone that likes to have a lot of different projects going because I teach in person. I have a lot of projects that get partially done as I'm demonstrating, especially in basketry, and then maybe don't get completed for a long time, or just kind of sit around until the next class where I demo on the same thing. So I have a lot of different categories that I'm going to be sharing today. I've got some basketry things, some knitting things, some crochet, even some wet felting things, and might have a spinning project here or there. Yeah, so I wanted to share them with you and kind of talk about the idea of being comfortable with unfinished projects, as well as being comfortable with ditching a project if you find that you fall out of love with it. So a lot of these I am intending to finish. Some of them I'll talk about why I am choosing not to finish them. So let's start out with basketry. And I have a pile of baskets down here that are incomplete. I'll pull some of these up. I'll show you what I have in front of me so that you can see from my perspective here. So here is what I am looking at right now, my piles of unfinished projects that I have pulled together to show you. Let's dive into this basketry pile and I'll show you what's going on here. Actually, before I dive into the basketry, I just grabbed my granny square bag because it finally finished completely drying from being blocked, and I just think this is so cute. I'm really happy with how it turned out and looking forward to putting one of these unfinished projects in here to tote around as my project bag. So if you haven't seen this video and you need a tutorial to do a granny square and then the granny square bag, I have the videos on how to do this granny square. It's a 12-petal daisy, and then a video tutorial on how to combine the granny squares to make this little tote bag. So I'll put those in the description below if you're interested in this. Now to my basket unfinished projects. So I actually didn't grab all of the unfinished baskets and things that I have going because I have so many. And some of them I have as step outs for my in-person classes where I'm teaching each technique and I like to show kind of the process in progress. So I have a lot of unfinished baskets that are intentional and a lot of unfinished baskets that I've just stuffed away because I got distracted or tired or bored of that project. So this little guy, this is a square basket that I just started weaving in a continuous weave using a stair-step pattern that goes around the basket structure. This, I didn't really have a clear vision in mind, but as I just pulled this out, this would be a great tissue box basket. It's allergy season where I'm at, and so, you know, tissues are in common use around here, and having something to kind of hide those tissue boxes is a nice feature. So this may end up being a tissue box basket. Not going to take this one apart because it's already so close to being done. I really just need a few more rows in here and then the rim to call this complete. I could add in some more details, add in some dyed reed over top of the reed I've already woven in here to add some details or interest, designs, that kind of thing. But this guy is almost done. And then looks like here, I don't even remember starting this one, but this is the beginning of a lampshade basket, and I did complete 3 of these for my little library space in our house, and you can see that video up here or in the description below. I made some of these up and then used pendant lights to attach into this hole that I created, and then put the bulbs in a low enough wattage that it's not going to get too hot or cause this to burn or anything. So looks like I have another one to complete. I definitely have planned to do some more basket lampshades for the studio and for other spaces in the house. So it's nice to find this one already started. Gotta keep working on that. Oh, and this one I am doing in round reed. I am doing the weaving in number 3 round reed, and I believe the diameter of the stakes here, I think this is number 4 round reed, but I can't really remember exactly. Then I have this little melon basket. I played with 2 different color of God's eyes, and I made my hoops using 5/8 inch wide flat oval reed. I put a piece, kind of circled it up, clamped it and glued it in place, and then I put another piece inside of that. So they're 2 flat oval pieces with the flat sides together so that it kind of has a half moon shape in the handle. I wanted to see if playing around with making my own handles out of reed rather than buying wooden hoops was a good option, as maybe a little bit cheaper option, or if I want to do something quick and don't have hoops or handles on hand, or they don't have the size that I want exactly. So played with this. This is Rit dyed reed. This guy is Rit dye the wine color, I believe. Yes, I'm pretty sure this is wine. And then this one is coral Rit dye. And I have a video on how to Rit dye your basket reed. If that's something you're interested in, you can find that on the channel. Then I have this partially completed, well, mostly completed. I just need to really lash the rim and put the leather handles in. This is a picnic basket. This is actually a basket that probably will be in our kit shop here pretty soon if it's not already. So you can find this in the Textile Indie shop. This comes with leather handles that you attach using Chicago screws. So it's really easy. You just tuck the leather strips into the basket structure and then tighten them closed with some Chicago screws. So you can remove the straps if you want, or just use this as a plain storage basket without handles if you prefer that. But this, I call it the picnic basket because it has the 2 nice tote handles. You can fit a blanket and your picnic in here, and it's super fun and cozy and very cottagecore-esque. Next up, I have 1/2 of a Carolina snowflake. I have no idea why I only have 1/2. My guess would be that I typically do Carolina snowflakes with 1/2 inch wide because it ends up being a little bit daintier, and this is 5/8 inch wide reed. So I may have used scrap to make this half and set this aside until I had scrap to make another half. And the holidays, December, November, that time period is usually when I do Carolina snowflakes. So I probably did that then and set it aside and never got back to it. So there's that. I'll have to make another half to finish this off. And then I have these guys. This is a wall hanging basket. I just have the rim to complete. This I would probably do with just some basic lashing using the 1/4 inch wide flat oval reed. And this guy is actually the base and the stakes to weave this wall hanging basket. This is a step out from one of my classes. So this is one that I'll leave unfinished to be able to demonstrate for one of my classes, but I thought I'd show these because this doesn't make a whole lot of sense until you see this next to it. This just looks kind of like a mess. Okay, a few more baskets here. Then I have this one, and you may recognize this from my backdrop a while back. I had this hanging up behind me. This is a star basket pattern, and I pulled the book out because I've had a couple questions about it. This pattern is in Handmade Baskets by Lynn Siller. It's a great basketry book for anyone interested in starting out in basketry, and it has a lot of great patterns and information. I have this listed in my resource page on my website if you want to find information about this book. Again, it's Handmade Baskets by Lynn Siller, and this is the initial pattern for a basket in the book. I never completed it because I got to this point and got distracted with other projects is probably what happened. Just never finished it up. But the pattern is for kind of a fruit bowl type basket. So I could continue this and finish that off, which would be nice because it's just been sitting around incomplete for quite a while now. Then I have this bean pot basket base, or any round shape that I wanted to do with it, I guess. This is a 12 stake basket, so there's 24 spokes set up in here, and I did a number 3 round reed to twine this base together, so I was able to create my own woven base rather than using like a wooden base for a round basket. So I have that. This could be whatever round basket I wanted it to be. It's just the base that I have sitting around ready to use when I want. And then this one, this is the same base, but it's already been started. And this is in a twill weave. So there's a twill pattern in this weave structure going all the way around the basket. And again, this is dyed reed in the color wine. And then I have this melon basket. This is also another basket I have for a class. I teach this melon basket in person. And this is a good example of what it looks like when you're mid-weaving, because you have the God's eye and the spokes in place, or the ribs in place, excuse me. You've started to weave and you're just filling in the space. So I like to have this kind of thing as a sample to show where you would be at mid-weave project. And my last basket is actually holding another incomplete project. So let me pull this out. This is a little market basket, and all I have left on this one is a few more rows and then the rim. This is one that I started working on while teaching a class and then never ended up finishing the rim. So it's so close. I could finish this off and then it would be useful for some project basket or something. But there's that. Okay, that's all my basket whips. I, again, do have more tucked away here and there, but those are the ones that are like the ones I'll actually probably finish that I don't really need for classes, or at least most of them I don't need for classes mid-process. So I have a lot of basket work ahead of me this summer. I want to pause here and just talk about the idea of being comfortable with a lot of unfinished projects. And I think my mentality on having unfinished projects, which is I feel very comfortable with having a lot of things going and a lot of projects going, because not every project suits a given or a certain situation. So I like to have a project that I can take on the go when we're traveling, or that's small enough to fit in my purse or my handbag when we're going out, so that I can work on it in the car, or if I'm waiting, or if I'm waiting on an appointment, things like that. And then I also like to have projects that I can work on while we watch TV. My husband and I like to sit down and watch some shows together on the weekends. So having something that I can sit down with and that doesn't really take a lot of focus, but I can do while we enjoy doing that together. And then having projects that are technically a little more challenging that I do have to sit down and focus on and think about. And then, of course, there's the projects that you can't sit down and do, like basketry. It doesn't really lend itself very often to sitting down and cuddling up on the couch because you need water and things. So those kinds of things are more studio crafts for me, or sit down at the dining room table while cooking dinner and, kind of doing multiple things at once. So having a lot of different projects going I find is really useful. Also, another aspect of that is if I get tired of one project, I can jump to another project and kind of go back and forth, and it keeps the creative juices flowing and my creative energy going because I'm just continuing to be inspired by the things that I'm doing rather than forcing myself to finish one thing before I move on to another thing. I still get a lot of projects done. None of these will like stay undone forever, most likely, but I do have projects that stay undone for a long period of time. I just get back to them after, you know, a season or something when I feel like it. So I'd love to hear what kind of project person you are. If you're someone that likes to have a lot of projects going so that you can pick and choose what to work on, or if you like to do one project at a time. I definitely don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I think each person does it a little bit differently. I know my sister Cassidy really enjoys having one thing that she can focus on and not be distracted or overwhelmed by having a lot of projects going. Mom and I are big into having a lot of projects going. So, there's just a lot of different personalities and different ways of doing things. So leave a comment below telling me what your experience is and how you like to do your projects. I'd love to hear about it. Next up, I have a project which I haven't actually started. I've just gathered all the materials for it, but it is eminently in progress or process in my brain, and so I thought I would share it. I got this alpaca boucle yarn in black, gray, and this cream color, and these inflatable bouncy balls because I'm going to be wet felting a bag, and this bouncy ball, you inflate it and then you felt around it as your resist or the structure around which I'll do the wet felting. So I got all these materials. I haven't chosen the base color of my bag yet, but I have these neutral colored yarns, so it's probably going to be a color behind the yarn. I'm not entirely sure, but I thought I'd share this because it is something that I've started in my brain, even if my hands haven't really gotten any progress done yet. Unfinished basket to hold an unfinished project. Okay, another thing that I'm working on is taking this hand-washed fiber, Pagora goat fiber. This I am now taking, it's freshly washed, and I'm taking it and combing it so that it's fluffy and ready to spin. I have this box in here. I've been tucking in some of the already carded bundles. So these bundles are carded, all the fibers are untangled and fluffy, and it's so soft. Oh, it's delicious. So that is something I'm working on as well. I also have this bag of white fiber here, the same Pagora fiber. So that's a carding project. And then let's jump to crochet. I have two started of the same pattern. It's the Everything's Pine Tank by Murphy Made Crochet. And I have it in this tan and forest green, and also in this terracotta kind of color in the tan. I think I'm going to frog both of these because this one I did not gauge swatch it and didn't test the yarn weight. I went a little bit heavier than the pattern called for, and I don't like the weight. So this one I'm going to take apart and use the yarn for something else. This guy, it's a lot better weight and it would be nice and lacy and feel really good. This is a sport weight yarn in, I think it's acrylic. This is a bag of yarns that I got from a thrift store that didn't have labels on them. It feels pretty close to an acrylic. So this one I might frog as well. The yarn is super frustrating to work with because it keeps splitting on me as I'm working, and it's very fine, and I don't feel like it's going to withstand much wear. it would probably pill pretty badly. And even while working on it, it's kind of breaking down a little bit. So I'm not very pleased with the yarn. The pattern is beautiful, and I still would like to use the Everything Pine Tank pattern that has this little pine tree motif. But I just haven't landed on a yarn that I really love for this pattern. So these two I'm going to frog because there's no point in continuing if I really don't like them. If that's the case with a project, that's totally fine. Even though this took hours and hours and hours, I am still going to take it apart because I can use the yarn for something else. And if I finish the tank top, I wouldn't really be happy with it. So I want to make something that I'm happy with. And this is just not it. Okay, my next crochet project is my temperature blanket. I have a lot of progress here. It's growing beautifully, and we've actually had a lot of temperature change recently in the last few months or so, which means that my color palette has kind of gone from a pastel-y section to a little bit brighter as the weather warms up. And I did that intentionally with my color card so that I would go from a little bit more pastel-y to a little bit bolder to really deep colors when it got very warm this summer. So it's fun to be changing colors. I'm going to have a lot of tails to weave in because I'm just leaving them. And I think I mentioned this in my temperature blanket update vlog a while ago. I have intended to weave these in as I go, but I haven't yet, kind of putting that off. And just keeping up with my one row a day, it has been challenging. When we were in Europe, I got really behind because I didn't take it with me. And then getting back into the swing of things when we got back, I had many days that I didn't work on it. So I'm about a month and a half behind, which means that I have a lot of catching up to do. So I'm just tracking the temperatures and working away at it as much as possible. I knew when I started this at the beginning of the year that I wasn't going to be able to manage a row every single day, so I knew I would get behind. I didn't quite fathom that I would get this behind this early in the year. I mean, it is May. Anyway, I've got a lot of crocheting to do on this thing, but really pleased with how it's working out, and the Ganchet yarn that I'm using has been really a pleasure to work with. So it's fun to be diving into kind of a different color palette as the weather changes. That is it for crochet. Now I have knitting projects, and the knitting project that I have been working on the longest, or that's been on the needles the longest, is this cardigan. This is, it's been so long I forget the name of the pattern. This is the throwback cardigan from Drea Renee Knits, and I'm doing it in these fall colors. This is my first color work project, so it's a little bit bumpy. It definitely will need to be blocked when I'm finished knitting. I am really close to being done with this. I just kind of lost track of it and really need to buckle down, sit down, and do some knitting, seems like, to finish this up. But I have the body completed, the collar is done. I have one sleeve almost finished. I need to do the second sleeve, and then after that, my last step would be to put the front button placket on and then attach buttons if I'm going to do that. I think, actually, I take that back. This doesn't even have buttons on it. Yes, saves me a step. So I just need to put the placket on the front, finish one sleeve, and block this really well. It will definitely need blocking. And then this guy will be done. So I might actually be able to finish this before the fall and winter when I will actually wear it. So that's exciting. Just to remember that I'm so close with this project. Next up, I have over here, this is another one that's really like, why haven't I completed this? It's so close to being done. but I've just moved on to other things. This is my naturally dyed hand spun night shift shawl, and this thing is huge. I made it in a lot heavier weight than the pattern calls for, but I thought the pattern was just so beautiful, and I had a bunch of hand spun that I wanted to hand dye with natural dyes. So all of these yarns were naturally dyed by me with plants that either I grew in my own garden or that I purchased from natural dye suppliers. So all of these are a plant or natural dye material. Like this blue is indigo, the purple is cochineal, this kind of orangey color is madder root. I've got some weld is the bright yellow in here. We've got some avocado and walnut represented here, some more weld. This kind of yellowy gold color, this is eucalyptus and weld mixed together, and then the tan is avocado. We've got the purple, which is a mix of indigo and cochineal. This kind of greeny blue, which is indigo with weld, and then some more of the same colors here. So really excited to have finished this, and this is hours and hours and hours of work in both spinning, dyeing, and knitting this project. So this will be a piece that I'm going to display in the studio. The last step I have on this project is weaving in all these gosh darn tails. And it really wouldn't be that much work. I could sit down and probably do it in the length of one TV show episode, but I just haven't, and I don't know why. So there's that project. And then I started this sweater. This is the Cinema Sweater by Kuda Vikika. It's a super simple top-down sweater, just kind of a classic sweater. I got this yarn from Knit Picks, and I hand dyed it using a kettle dye sort of method, and you can see a video about that process on my channel. I shared kind of a sped up version. And this, I used a wool dye from a company that actually doesn't exist anymore. I'd had it in my stash for probably like 15 years. The colors are seafoam and navy blue. And there's one other blue in here, but I can't remember the name of it. So I have all of this yarn that I hand dyed using that technique. So lots of yarn to pull from. And I started knitting this, and I did a day-long knitting challenge where I wanted to see how much knitting I could do in 12 hours. And this is what I got. I got up until the point where I am preparing to split it for the, well, I'm at the shoulders. So this fits here, and it's a little crunched because of the needle size, but I would wear it like that. This is a little bit of a tricky one for me because I don't like the yarn. It makes me think of the blue camo kind of color, and I don't know that I want to complete a sweater that's this color. So I have a couple options. I could continue to knit this with this yarn because it's the yarn I have and I have enough for the sweater, and then over dye it again, something darker so that it ends up being all one color or a modeled version of all one color rather than being kind of the mixture of blues and greens. Or I could frog this, take it apart, tearfully say goodbye to the 12 hours that I worked on this, and chalk it up to a fun experience and start over. I do want to knit a cinnamon sweater, just perhaps not in this color. And another thing, to be super blunt, I don't like this yarn. It has a mix of wool and polyamide, and I think the polyamide is making it really rough. I don't like the texture, and it feels weird in my hands. Even though it's a higher percentage of wool to polyamide, it feels like an acrylic yarn to me, which is not a feeling that I enjoyed knitting with for that 12 hours. So this one, I started this in February, now it's May, and this whole time it's been sitting there waiting for me to decide its fate. Because do I keep going with something that I don't really like and over dye it, or do I save the yarn for something that would be cool in these colors? Don't know how to make that decision. You know, I think I just made my decision. This fabric doesn't feel good. And so even if I did finish this sweater, I don't think I would actually want to wear it, especially if I didn't have a layer underneath it, because it kind of has a rough texture to it. So, oh, I think I need to frog this one. Goodbye, 12 hours. That makes me sad. But that's the way of creativity sometimes. You invest a lot of time in things, and sometimes you just have to let them go. Well, that answers that question. Goodbye, little sweater project. We shall frog you and turn you into something else. This is a project that I started during a pine needle class, and I built this base, kind of started building up the walls and then went out. So I think that this is going to become sort of a pine needle vase basket, but I'm not sure exactly what shape I'm going to do. I did a vase basket a couple years ago now, and I shared a video on that where I created a nice vase shape, like a typical vase. I don't want to repeat that, but I think doing something that has sort of a ceramic-y shape to it, a pot shape to it, would be fun in the pine needles. And I already have that sort of bottom going and the walls curving out, so I could pull it in so it's more narrow and then go out again and kind of have an undulating shape to the structure of this basket. So this has taken quite a long time to create. So this is one that I weave on pretty regularly when I'm teaching pine needle basketry. But it's at this point where I need to decide what it's going to become so that I can weave in that manner. Another idea that I had for this was to weave it out as a plate. So have this be the bottom of the plate and then just continue to weave outwards. That could be another option too. So this one, it's still undecided what this is going to ultimately become, but I am currently still working on this. And lastly, I have all of this hand-dyed merino Frabjous Fibers wool. This is merino wool that is dyed in their different colorways. This one is Artemis. We have Wisteria, Tallulah. This one's Farmer's Market. I've got Potash and Cottage Garden. All of these great colors. And these I have set aside to use in either wet felting or spinning projects. I haven't decided which, but I just put out a spinning in color video course using some of the Frabjous Fibers yarn to show how to take a hand-painted roving and turn it into yarn that you can use in your knitting, crochet, or weaving projects, and how to anticipate or plan out how the colors are going to form. So we go over how to create yarns that stripe when you knit with it, how to create yarns that variegate, and some other techniques. So up here, I actually have my sample pieces right in here. So I've spun some of these rovings into yarn using different techniques, and then I've knitted these samples to show what each of those techniques produces as a knit sample, and then they would be somewhat similar for a crochet or a weaving sample. So here, this guy is the Artemis bundle, And then this one with the yellows and turquoise, this is Farmer's Market. And then Cottage Garden is right here. So Cottage Garden and then my Cottage Garden yarn and knit sample. So if you're interested in taking hand-dyed rovings and turning them into yarn that you could use for your knit and crochet projects, check out my video course on how to do fractal yarns, split roving yarns, and manipulate the fiber colors to create the yarns that you like. Well, Sugar Snaps, thanks so much for joining me in this video. I really enjoyed sharing my works in progress. I hope this didn't stress you out too much and that it inspired you to start some of your own projects, even if you already have some going. I look forward to seeing you in another video and reading your comments below on what type of maker you are, whether you like to have lots of projects going or if you're a one-at-a-time project kind of person. I'd love to hear about that. Until next time, happy making, keep working on your whips, and throwing new stuff into the mix. I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Now I need to clean up this mess. Ugh. Maybe I should just leave it. Out of sight, out of mind. If I just left it, they might actually get finished. Nope, better put it away. Bailey will make me clean it up anyway.